issues of the protest that is coming up on Monday, and you're the only one who's neutral here. Yes. Before we get into the suggestions in terms of what the Azimio team is suggesting, there are 7 issues they talk about: cost of living, discrimination in state appointments, privatization of Kenya, audit of IBC servers, assembling of the new IBC, assault on multi-party democracy, and regime incompetence. Before we get into what they suggest as solutions, are the protests necessary as a Kenyan where you stand?
Without a doubt, and I'll give you context, which is not politically biased at all. Based
You're
on,
very cautious today.
Yes.
The only one.
I mean, when I'm with Eddie at Kiborek, I need to be the neutral figure here.
Yeah.
At least to help our audience get a fair balance of everything. But before I answer that, I need to mention that I am also concerned about these CAS appointments to the extent that they seem to disrupt the institutions of political parties in Kenya.
Yes.
Political parties are institutions established under the law, funded by the law, by the taxpayers, and we expect that they serve in an ideological manner, in the sense that once somebody has identified the political party and its manifesto, then they should stick by it. What the president has done, and I said I'm congratulating some of them because I know them, what the president has done is to basically use his powers to engineer defections. Obviously, ODM has issues. It actually had issues. I agree with Kiborek on that, particularly on nominations in Luo Nyanza, and they did it so poorly that I personally contacted them. Asked them, do you really know what you're doing in terms of the future of the party? But look, 2 wrongs don't make a right. They have a room to reform going forward, because if you are a monopoly and you abuse it, you would perish. And we've seen that in the retail sector in Kenya and across the world and many other industries. So that is not reason to justify a disruption of, not really disruption, but intrusion into institutions of governance, including political parties. And that's not good reason enough to then collapse parties to create one monolith, which I think is where UDA is headed with the aggressive approach that Malala is giving it. Every party to kind of dissolve and join it. And you know, Kenya, chapter 1, Kenya is a multi-party democracy, and we need parties. We need people to dissent. In fact, we've even created people to run as independent candidates 100% because we know parties can be messed up, so that you have a leeway to do it. I think Eddie did it, just tried to do it at a particular point when he was running in the by-elections in Migori. Now let's go to demonstrations. You know, there are 2 viewpoints to politics in Kenya and across the world. One looks at politics entirely as an event. Once elections are done, like we did in August, people resume their normal businesses, and we wait for the government to do whatever it wants for 5 years. Then we come back, campaign again. Another viewpoint, which is what all mature democracies have embraced, is to sustain political activity based on issues at hand, whether it is reforms of IBC, which is a germane issue, or cost of living, which is happening across Africa. I mean, on Monday, Malema is also leading serious demonstrations in Pretoria. I just came from there the other day. And actually, they are more combative than Azimio are here. So I think that in the interest of Kenya that we sustain political debate, put those in power to account for whatever they do. If you promise subsidies, if you promise specific social interventions like universal health care, we want to see how you're doing it. And if you're not doing it right, we have to remind you. If you promised people access to capital, what they call Hustlers Fund, we want to question you whether what you have introduced, this digital lending platform that looks like Fuliza, whether it is really access to capital that can sustain businesses. So we need political activities to be sustained, and there's nothing particularly unique about Kenya in that regard. So, for example, they are actively demonstrating in Israel now about what Netanyahu has proposed to change the judiciary and all that in Israel. They are actively protesting across many other countries, across different issues. And these are countries that are stable. It are countries that conduct elections regularly. That are countries that are way richer than Kenya. So in Kenya, we should not demonize political activity, particularly because there are real issues to be addressed. But importantly, if you have a country that is inherently ethnic like Kenya, and you have something as significant as the reconstitution of IEBC happening, and you have political players who don't want to converse, then we have to call them, their bluff. Because if Azimio and Kenya Kwanza don't consult on this IEBC issue, you can already see a crisis in 2027. There's no way that one side will allow the other to just appoint commissioners. But importantly, also to reform IEBC. I keep saying solution to Kenya's election will rely on technology, less on the personnel. But you have to put the right personnel through consensus to implement the reforms that are necessary to then have a peaceful election. So
but is most of it just a game of perception, Komolo? Because, for example, the IBC one that you just mentioned, the team, the panel, the selection panel says they've already received 169 applications. Nobody has been elected yet. They haven't settled on anyone. We will see the interviews. But already, there's a perception that they're creating an IBC.
Trevor, as my two brothers who have contested and won elections will tell you, elections and politics are about perceptions. You don't manage it early enough, you chest thump too early, you will meet a reactionary force. For every action, there's a reaction. And this is what Azimio is trying to I think, react to. It is, I don't agree with everything that PLO said here the other day. But at least one thing I agree with, the two forces need to talk on critical minimum reform, and one of them has to be IEBC.
Okay.
So unless you create that platform, people will protest.
Okay.
And then it conflicts with other things. Cost of living. You saw what happened in Nakuru? Yes. So you can easily tell that this can snowball into other things.
All right.
Unless proper interventions are made now. And remember, the big man in the house as we speak is the president.
Yeah.
And he has to respect the Azimio team.
All right.
At the moment, he's talking at them.
Okay. Kiborek, should there be a sit-down between the opposition and the government?
Trevor.
Now, most of people have already assumed that is a handshake. There's a difference. Dialogue.
Trevor.
You and I are talking right now, but there's no handshake.
Trevor.
Yeah.
President is the president of Kenya, but he's a party leader of UDA. You know, engaging with Raila means ODM party leader with UDA party leader engaging. That's the only horizontal conversation they can have. But now as the supporters and as members of UDA, we have not ratified that because we have not seen necessary because of this, Trevor. Now I want to be clear on this. Raila is a very predictable politician. In 1997, when he lost against Moi, he started no reforms, no elections. You know, he put the pressure, no reform, no election. He was invited for a sitting by Moi. He accepted to merge his LDP and be the Secretary General of KANU. He accepted an handshake, a kind of handshake that it suited him by then. You know, it's a selfish thing that he accepted to merge his LDP, become Secretary General of KANU, hoping that maybe he'll be given by President in 2002 to be the candidate of KANU. Came to Kibaki time, 142 against 1. You know, pressure, Kibaki accepted nusu mkate. He kept quiet. You know, after Moi accepting his, in 2001, taking him to KANU, he became choir master of singing praise and worship for President Moi. You know, after Kibaki accepting him, giving him handshake. Let me finish.
I'll give you a chance.
That's not accurate.
Listen. You have the right of reply.
No, but it's not proper.
I will give you. Let me finish.
Undermine a leader.
I think that's
if you start undermining Raila Odinga here, we also can undermine other leaders. But
let me finish.
Let me help both of them, Trevor. Unlike my two brothers, I was actually
I'm dealing with two people
during those audio mergers and all that.
Yes.
It was a very context-based thing, based on specific reforms. And I think I'll urge them, and I've said this to my colleagues, my friends MPs who are slightly younger, that they need to be emotionally smart.
Exactly.
Okay.
Very important.
Let Kiborek make his point, and then you will clarify.
No, Eddie.
But let's keep it on the issue.
Okay, on the issue. I'm coming on the predictable pattern. I'm bringing a pattern. You should, sequence.
Okay.
You say 1, 2, 3. Next is 5.
But you can't.
Let me bring.
Political parties
give you a chance to counter. Eddie, that's why you're here. We'll give you a chance to.
Eddie.
Okay.
Yes.
We have two people.
Yeah.
Who, one is an ageist who want to dismiss someone you're still young. And we have those who pretend they have monopoly of wisdom, like Eddie, who want to say, no, you don't know this, you don't understand this, relax. Let me say mine. You will say you as Eddie. Don't dismiss my submission. You will come with your submission.
I just say don't.
And I said one.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm bringing Raila as ran against 4 presidents.
Okay.
Which was number 1 Moi. He went for handshake. He became Secretary General for Kano for selfish reasons. That was. He came to Kibaki. Supported Kibaki. When they differed, he pushed for 42 against 1. He became Prime Minister. When it served him well, Kibaki was a good man. 2013, when we were going to election, at that time I was a young boy from college. I went around the country with URP, supported William Ruto, and you know, I saw it happening. He told us Uhuru belonged to ICC and William Ruto. They were criminals. They belonged to ICC. Moja ni Mulevi, ingine sijui Makanga ni mwizi, nini. He gave us all stories about Uhuru Kenyatta. In 2007, again he demonized Uhuru Kenyatta. But when Uhuru Kenyatta gave him handshake, Uhuru Kenyatta overside akatuambia sisi tunabweka. Uhuru Kenyatta became an angel overnight. And he started telling us how Uhuru is a good man. Uhuru Kenyatta is a good man. How we are not understanding Uhuru Kenyatta. We should be patient. Taxation is part of government. You should relax. Wacha mulipe ushuru, muacha kubweka. That's what he said in Kilifi. And you know, there's clip up to that even in this Citizen TV, Trevor. Now, Trevor, Uhuru Kenyatta exit stage, William Ruto came. He want to start the same demonstration. If William Ruto call him like Komolo is saying for a sitting, tomorrow he'll tell us how William Ruto is an angel. How William Ruto, we should give him time. How William Ruto, we should... But this order of blackmail, you know, anarchist way of approaching government, Trevor, in a democracy like ours, is not acceptable. Because you cannot be losing election in whatever means, even if you want to say it's unfair. Even Komoloya lost, and he believed it was unfair. But he's a gentleman here, relaxing, reading Daily Nation, submitting his wisdom to Kenyans, telling Nation how we should build this country, sitting from here. You know, he's not in demonstration in his village where he believed he was rigged. You know, he's here doing what should be done. Okay. Now, if he does demonstration today, and the reason he's saying, one is IBC. Hypocrisy, Trevor. You were in this Citizen TV when they enacted and passed the law in Parliament on bringing IBC commissioners. Even it was chaotic in Parliament. They forced their way in. When the law went through, they appointed Cherera 4. Using the same, you know, act of parliament which they did by gunpoint. Kenaishungu were thrown out of the house and the registrars which were pro-Tagatanga then. They forced their way in. You know, the law we are using is, you know, he will make his bed, Trevor, should lie on it. They made this bed of IBC, let them lie on it. They are the one who came with the enactment. They thought it will serve them. And that's why I say, when you are making a law, assume you will be on the other side. How will you feel it when it is working against you? Right. So, Trevor, listening to all these demos of theirs, one that I can say out of this demonstration, William Ruto should not subdue to pressure. Okay. Wacha kaumane kama kinaumana. That's because...
You believe the cost of...
Let me finish. Let me finish. William Ruto should not subdue to this pressure because if William Ruto subdue to pressure and give him handshake today, 2032, Kashago will be forced to subdue the pressure and listen to his grievances. 2042, myself, when I'll be the president, I'll be forced by the same Raila to subdue to his own pressure again and listen to him and give him his grievances because we play him to have a long life and live up to eternity. Okay. Number two, Trevor, the first intention that this demonstration will achieve and Raila want to achieve is to punish Mount Kenya for not voting for him. The business community in this country and this Nairobi are from Mount Kenya.
Though you say the direct opposite.
And you know, there is all direction implying that it will not be peaceful. And you know, Kisumu, they did something, a rehearsal in Kisumu. You saw how it went. And it was their own Kisumu, their own economy. Here in Nairobi, if you bring 1,000 people, how will you control them? It is impossible. Okay. So that means it will be chaotic, it will be full of thuggery and thieving. Let me finish. Affecting the business. Yeah. Of this town. In an economy we are trying to bring back to life. Okay. In an economy that we are saying we should not have a bloated, he's saying bloated, yes. In this economy, we should be praying for economy to take off the way it is taking off. All right. And listen, Trevor.
Yes, Trevor. You're taking too long.
I'm finishing. Yeah. On this one, we want to let Raila Odinga bring it on. We can even decide as us to go and occupy his place in Karen, his house. Let him bring on. If that
one is an incitement, but it's okay. But you
going to State House is not incitement.
You know what's happening? Go to the US, go to any country. People demonstrate outside State House. Why should state house in Kenya be...
Actually, including inside. In Sri Lanka, they did
Sri Lanka, the state house is an institution created by the people. Raila Odinga is an institution created by the people, so it's ignorant and very bad incitement. I've heard him say it, and I thought Ichunga was saying it as a joke. But that is just wrong, because then you are saying that people should also invade your home as an MP. But that's fine. I'll let him.
You are setting the precedence.
Look, this is the thing. You see, this idea that state house is the property of William Ruto is a very bad mentality to have as a people. And you know, there are just two things I want to debunk from what he has talked about. In 2017, 2018, when Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta had a handshake, Trevor, there is no day Raila demanded to be in government. There is nobody in Raila's camp that I know that was given any cabinet ministry, any ministerial job, any agency, any state department. It was a statesmanship, an act for which Raila should be appreciated and should be praised for, because there is no day Raila got into government.
But he took money.
In 2008, when Raila got into a GNU arrangement, let me also be heard in silence, Trevor, because I listened to him. In 2008, when Raila got into government of national unity together with Kibaki, they so praised William Ruto by Kiborek, was part of the formation. In fact, the biggest beneficiary at that time was William Ruto, who got into government. 2013, Raila Odinga did not get into any government. In any case, he talks about ICC, and ICC was an issue that Raila did not bring on the table. It is Ruto who brought ICC issues into the country. There is the famous quote by Ruto saying, "Don't be vague, go to Hague." So you can't just disparage a leader who has been a gadfly in this country and be able to build a country based on national values that our constitution supports in a way that Kiborek is saying. Now, on Maandamano, Trevor, Article 37 of the Constitution is very clear, and that's why I'm cautioning the people in government like Kimani Chungu and my brother Kiborek that don't make some utterances that are basically an incitement to the public. Remember, the ICC is talking about there are people who are in government now who are acquitted. If you look at the Rome Statute, acquittal does not equal with, who are not acquitted. Their cases were withdrawn. Withdrawal of a case does not equal to acquittal. If you look at the Rome Statute, any case that has been withdrawn can be able to be brought back. So if you start inciting the public the way we are seeing them inciting violence and inciting public, we have been to 16 meetings, Trevor. 16 meetings in the country going around as Azimio talking to the people. None of those has been violent. And therefore, on Monday, the Maandamano that are going to happen is supported and is going to be a peaceful Maandamano on Monday under Article 37 of the Constitution. And as peaceful as we have been peaceful because of the leadership of Raila Odinga. You can't disparage him. And if my brother here is not aware, they are going to be eaten by their own pride and arrogance, because a number of Kenyans who are going to demonstrate on Monday include people who supported them, who they gave failed promises. The hustlers that they talk about, this is not me, Ipsos recently gave statistics that 62% of Kenyans are not happy with the Ruto regime. You know, this is not me. This is Ipsos. The same Ipsos. And that means, if you do statistical analysis based on how they declared the election, if you do a regressional analysis, it means that out of 10 people today, 6 people who voted for Ruto have left Ruto. And we saw it in Nyandarua, we saw it in Kiaru when they started demonstrating, we saw it in Muranga, where they say they got a lot of votes. And I'm telling you, people from the regions where Ruto comes from, even in the own country where Kiborek comes from, where people go without food and people don't have water, the lies for fertilizers has come way too far. They are going to come to the streets and they are going to demonstrate. And if you start thinking about doing anything bad to them, the way I'm seeing the North Rift, right now, you know, the North Rift, if you look at the Rome Statute, there is a persecution that is going on. People are being chased out of their homes. No. Because, it is true. And there is extrajudicial killings in those places. Trevor.
Let him finish.
Trevor, that's a serious allegation.
It is.
You should withdraw. This is the House of Records. This is the House of Records.
We are not in Parliament.
No, it's because we are live, we are talking to Kenyans. This is House of Records.
But you present them so you will clarify.
It is on record that Kindiki gave people in the North Rift, in particular quarters, 24 hours to leave their homes.
But that's because of banditry.
No, it doesn't matter. You can't use the banditry as an excuse to excommunicate people from their homes.
It's not an excuse. We all know there's a fight against banditry right now.
There is fight against banditry, but that does not equal telling people who have never known a place where they can be able to stay and another place that they can call home to leave their homes, right? And educate and profile them to leave their homes in 24 hours. In any case, by there, I'm not just talking because if you look at the case of Kacheliba, when Kibaki came to power, Kibaki also used military, we saw in this country. So I'm not just making some utterances. Kibaki used military, but he put military within every 5 kilometers to build roads, to build hospitals and to dig water holes, and that problem was solved in an socio-economic arrangement. It was not solved with this excessive force. That
now we're talking about the security operation. Let's come back to the process.
I'm just giving you an example of the nature of violence that this regime is very akin to and wants to deploy on people on Monday. And I can assure you that the problem that we are having in this country, the one biggest reason why people are going to rise is because of unfulfilled promises. And these unfulfilled promises is to the hustler nation, is also to different political parties. If I just give you an example very quickly, Trevor, because my brother here talked about Malala talking about the issue of merging political parties. This is one of those reasons that is annoying to even people who are in government, because you make promises during elections. For instance, if you look at the coalition documents in all these political parties, PA, for instance, was told, if you look at their coalition agreement with the Kenya Kwanza, first schedule, Article 8B, go and read it. It says that upon Ruto taking government, it will ensure that PA takes control of the top management of Kenya Port Authority. Given that Kenya Port Authority is based in the coast, it is making about 65 billion in revenue and only leaves about 30 million on land rates in the coast. Right now, Sudi Amani was number 1 in ranking in terms of people who are being viewed, and then William Ruto, who is Ruto's relative, was number 3. Or at least tribesman, and his one was given. That's a coalition argument that was failed. ANC, together with the Ford Kenya, in signing coalition agreement together with Kenya Kwanza, had 5 promises. I'm going to mention them very, very fast because of pressure of time. Number 1, the coalition agreement, if you go and look at what was launched in register of political parties. 1, there was a promise to revive Mumia Sugar, all within 60 days, and pay all the bills of 30 billion, all within 60 days, and pay all farmers, all within 60 days, set up, or at least launch, not set up, but launch at least 1 factory in all Western region counties, all in 60 days, and then do a full revival of Pan Paper factory, all in 60 days, give 30% of all appointments to people of ANC and Ford Kenya, all in 60 days, and lastly, legalize, table in Parliament within 30 days, the issue of Prime Cabinet Secretary. All of these things have been have not been fulfilled. And the people who voted for Ruto based on these promises are listening and they are seeing. Why is it that they are now bundling down, they now want to close parties? 1, because they don't want to fulfill promises, and number 2, because they don't believe in multipartyism, which my brother was talking about under Chapter 2, Article 2 of the Constitution, that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. To the extent that this regime wants to install dictatorship. Under our own laws, as I finish, Trevor, 0.3% of our last audited funds, as opposed to go to political parties, funds. It is UDA, right? Because UDA is better than Ruto. These things of Malala speaking or somebody like Regali Gachagua speaking, all these people are guided by Ruto. It is UDA that is actually in court against political parties getting funded to the extent that he doesn't want to support political parties. And if people like us in Azimio tell you that these failed promises and these constant lies and conmanship that is going on in governance is going to lead to an uprising by the people, it is coming on Monday. Because the main reason is not because they're obsessed with Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is a simple state of, a simple symbol of that frustration by the people. But the truth is, your own people are rising against you because you make promises that you cannot be able to achieve, and then you think that this State House as well as executive
Trevor, but this is a monologue now.
Okay,
you know, rise of reply, Trevor.
Where is the middle ground?
Right of reply, Trevor. Trevor, listen. Listen, okay, Komolo, 1 minute.
So let's have...
When I spoke, you gave him the right of reply. When he's speaking and bring and quote accusation, including the security issue, which is very sensitive, you don't give me right.
You will Trevor, you know, let's hear what Komola has to say, then we come to you.
My good friends have to listen to me.
Let's have some order, gentlemen. Let's hear what Komola has to say. Komola, so where is the middle ground?
The middle ground is what I'm just about to say.
Yeah.
But I need to correct my friend Honorable Kiborek. It is true I've ran for elections before. The correct position is that I wasn't declared. The reasons why I wasn't declared,
and you never did
and things I don't want to say here.
Someone else will declare.
We'll move on, and
you should do mandamano.
Something will happen.
You do mandamano.
I do mandamano in a civilized way, but I will continue doing that. And my people in rank will know that. But importantly, even yesterday, the entire French nation was protesting.
Yes.
Against pension reforms. France is generally a very stable country if you've visited them. And I mentioned about Israel. And people are starting to demonstrate against financial crisis around bank closures in the US. And by the way, I've also lived in China. I know the Chinese also demonstrate. It's only that it's not covered by the media. Sometimes local issues, sometimes national issues. The biggest one probably was COVID restrictions that then led to opening up. So the bigger point is that demonstrations are legitimate. They should be carried out in a civilized way. They should be responsible, but they should not be criminalized.
Yes.
Partly because Kenya is beyond that. I mean, I shudder to imagine that Raymond Omolo, for example, order police to counter, or my lecturer, Professor Kindiki, to counter demonstrations in a negative way. I can predict they won't win that battle. So it's very important that as we go to Monday, we have very responsible leadership in terms and maturity on both sides of the political divide. Now, one of my biggest problems, and I mentioned it here very briefly, one of my biggest problems with the youths that I actually congratulate for being elected to Parliament and the Senate and, of course, county assemblies in the last elections is that a significant degree of them demonstrate what I consider emotional immaturity. Emotional immaturity.
Yeah.
And I say this respectfully. By emotional immaturity, I mean that somebody, if you have a national platform like they have in rallies, you should understand context of the country. That you are talking about a country that is heavily tribal, that political parties are built around personalities and not necessarily ideologies.
Yeah.
And that these people have constituencies that can be triggered. So, for example, several junior senators from central Kenya have taken to just abusing Uhuru like he's a child. But this is a guy who has a brand name and has a constituency and has governed for 10 years and is respected across the continent, who we could easily turn into a trade envoy. Yeah. Or a peace envoy. So, you know, you can tell that his supporters, however few you think they are, will react. You see, a good number of them have taken to calling Mr. Odinga names, and calling it so blatantly, so irresponsibly, that they don't appreciate that the very space we are enjoying now to talk here originates partly from Mr. Odinga's and other people's struggles. So I think it is high time we call the young men and women who have been elected and who are largely under 45 to order, to appreciate that, okay, Kenya as a context, we appreciate that you are leadership, but we also have a country to preserve, and we have to preserve it by ensuring civil liberties across board are respected, including, by the way, and I know this may be relevant here, the rights of people who identify as LGBTQ. You may disagree with them, but you have no right to go to churches and demonize them because you don't know them. And importantly, because what you consider to be unnatural may be having public health implications in the broader public health space. So sometimes
that's a whole new discussion.
Totally new discussion, but I'm trying to bring our leaders to order, to understand that this country has to be governed in a very emotionally intelligent way. Okay. Let's respect Mr. Ruto, let's respect Mr. Odinga, let's respect Mr. Kenyatta, and obviously, hopefully, the Deputy President will try to start measuring his words, then he earns the respect.
Okay.
But if he keeps engaging with people the way he does, saying Kenya is a company and things like that, then, you know, that is susceptible to multiple interpretations. And once that happens, it might be beyond his control.
Okay. Kiborek.
Trevor, I think by now it is clear that I'm debating against two gentlemen here, and their ideology, and now they are speaking, they are coming from even neutral. I will ask how neutral is neutral. Then after
I'm a professional lawyer, Kiborek. Very well recognized in this country.
Listen, Trevor, I will ask how neutral is neutral, but for now, let's stick to the issues. One,
I defend the president, I'm not neutral.
I want to dismiss with contempt.
Yeah.
What Eddie has said about the North Rift insecurity and the banditry. It's a whole issue that if we discuss today, yeah, we'll discuss until cows come home. It's a serious issue. It is so complex for Eddie to understand. And I urge Eddie to stick to sugarcane growing, fishing, forget about those banditry and the North Rift thing. He doesn't understand anything on that. And it is, you know, we are nomads by nature. Let me finish. But you should, listen, you should bring yourself to speed. You know, we are nomads in where that world. I come from that world. We come from that world and we are nomads. We don't have even permanent structures. When you are told to forget, you just forget with your cows. We are nomads, and that is it. It is as simple as that. For his place, because amejenga nyumba ile simba ya mawe nini, it's difficult things like eviction. For us, if you are told, leave this grazing field. Us is about grazing fields. Leave this grazing field, go to the other. It's not eviction. It is just moving from one grazing field to another for enable these people to do the insecurity. And when you want to speak about human rights on the issue of banditry and whatever, there's children who are being killed. Even yesterday, a young man was killed in Samburu. It's been in Kimbaringo, Turkana, and they all need someone to speak up for them. So it's another issue that I don't want us to go there. The issue of KPA said was, and you dwell on the UDA and Kenya Kwanza agreement and coalition. You know, he speak for us when we are here as Kenya Kwanza, and we are not complaining. Wetangula is not complaining, Mudavadi is not complaining, King is not complaining. Why are you to come as an outsider? And I want to lecture us about our internal affairs, which we are comfortable with. Actually, from here, Trevor, I'm going to Machakos with Cleo Malala, the SG of the ruling party, you know, to go and talk to our delegates in Machakos. Because our ideology is different from the ideology. Them, they believe we should have many small parties which working together, as we believe, as a way of getting a national unity, as the way of getting somewhere where you can bring everyone perspective of his tribe, and we can rise through the party ranks to the level that we can contest for presidency or rule the country through the party. As is the ideology that we want to bring make UDA a strong party like ANC, you know, a party which really is organized and which has democracy inside. Their problem is that the D in ODM doesn't stand for democracy. So as we want a party, and we are doing grassroots elections, to make sure that all the way to the top is a party which has been formed and has a foundation of democracy. That is what we are doing as a party, as UDA. And our colleagues who are in Kenya Kwanza, that is another issue that is beyond him. We'll talk, we'll engage. If it is necessary for them to come together, we will come for the willing. It's a coalition of the willing. If we say we are going, we'll go. If it's not, they are not willing, it's still respect that. We'll not force them or subdue them to come to the table of the willing. So it's an issue that he cannot understand, because theirs is more different fashion and ideology from ours. The ideology we are pursuing is a national unity through a national party. That's why you see even our national section, Cleo from Western, Nyakundi Jafo Papa from Kisii Treasurer, Mama Sicily says from Embu is the chair lady of the party, bringing the party, the youth, and the national, and the, you know, he says it's not from Rift Valley or Japheth is not from my village. I could have become treasurer. I am qualified, but you know, it's a party that should appear national and bring imagination and capture the dreams of Kenyans. Trevor. So that issue you will not understand on the party democracies. You will not understand, Trevor. When we come to the issue of respecting Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, we do respect them. But my brother, respect is a two-way. When you go and say Kacheda, You know, for those who know what Chetha is, because I understand Luo, Chetha is a very bad name.
Watch your language, Kiborek. It's live TV.
You know, but they have been saying on live TV, including Edia, that Chetha. Accused is a very bad, Chetha is a very bad name to call a person of reputable as Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. For Kenyans who don't know what Chetha is,
watch your language, Kiborek.
I'm watching because I'm a cautious young man
we don't allow
cultured and who is a church boy. You see, I will not go to that level. But what I was telling you is respect is two-way. Respect these leaders, we respect back. But if you demean the other leaders, you know, you get equal demeaning. And for those young men who are saying respect Uhuru Kenyatta, the epitome of disrespect to leadership, abusing and calling everyone names and dismissing every leader is the same former president. So if you keep quiet like Uhuru Kenyatta as a former head of state, you will get a befitting respect. Even Moi was not liked by NAC regime, but he kept quiet and maintained low temperature, and he was respected as a statesman. Uhuru Kenyatta has been given as an envoy of peace, envoy, preaching envoy outside the country. But in this country, Trevor, he is one of those people supporting the anarchists to go to demonstration. And outside the country, you want to be the face of peace. It is selfish to go and preach peace in Congo and support anarchists in your anarchy in your country. It should be called to order. Going to the issue of multipartyism is telling me it's an issue I want to discuss it for a long time. You know, I was born in 1992, Trevor.
92.
I was born in 1992. Eddie was born probably in 1990. If it's all 89, 80 we're sitting here. Komolo maybe
much older.
Much older, maybe 10 years older.
Not necessarily, but senior. Senior enough to know most of these things.
Now what I was saying is, and this is where they have missed the point, ODM and this Azimio and the code since day one. When they go to the podium, Orengo and the team, they tell us how they fought for multipartyism. Fine. But I wasn't there. I never even knew there was multiparty. I was not born yet. So you dwell on history more than where you want the country to go. And Kiborek here, I represent 50% of the young people of this country are my age and even below. There is someone born in 2002 who is Fafota, and he's born way younger when Moi was not in power. He was born when Kibaki was president, and he's now a voter. And you want to capture his imagination by telling him Vasco da Gama stories, or now you fought in the trenches. Tell us what is realistic for now, going forward. Tell us the future of this country. Where do you want to take us going into the future? Not where you came from, and Vasco da Gama stories and agrarian revolution stories. Okay. To me, it's like agrarian revolution of Mesopotamia. So, saying this, Trevor, as I finish, you cannot be held hostage. Even me, I cannot hold hostage my people because of what I did to them in the past. If you did something good in the past, we salute you, we respect you, we give you your place in history. You belong to history book, we respect you. You have done this, Moi did this, we respect. Kibaki did this, we respect. Raila did this in 1992, we respect. But you cannot hold us hostage because of what you did. That because I did this and this and this in 1900, you must do this to me. No.
Okay. All right.
Lastly, coming to the matter of KPA, which is said here without facts and without, I don't know, sometimes, you know, it's very easy to accuse because you just wake up from your house and accuse. The chairman of KPA, One Tayari, is from Kinango, who is the overall leader of KPA, because in the hierarchy, the chair who sits in the board as chair is Tayari, who is from Kinango, Coast, and is in charge of KPA. CEO, who was recruited, got 86 points. Number 2 got 68. No one got, he's the only person who got the 70 points threshold. And he has served for 32 years in that place. And he was chased because his name was not politically correct. He could have become Director General long before. But because his name was not correct during the time of handshake, he was chased to Kisumu, to the port of Kisumu. For no reason, he has been head of operation over 10 years. And hierarchy-wise, he was supposed to take over, you know, without even, there was not even dispute about it. Okay. But because they condemn him because of his name.
All right.
And now we are saying we are back in a Kenya where you are not condemned because of your name.
Okay. Let's see what the people are saying now. Yes. Okay, we've run out of time. Let's see what the people are saying. There's a lot of feedback coming through. Let's read them really quick at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Let's bring that up on your screen. Kipto says, I'm from Mogotio constituency. Honorable Ruben Kiborek is my MP. Towards the cast nomination, I fully support it because the presidential seat was not only delivered by H.E. William alone, but by all that team. It's good to reward them. Okay. Kevinsky says, please play the clip of Ruto accusing Azimio to plotting to kuongeza vyeo It is a sad situation. Kenya Kwanza is negating every promise they gave me as a voter. This Mandamano thing is beginning to make sense now. Engineer Lazaro says President is busy assembling 2027 campaign machine by creating unconstitutional positions. Where will he get money to pay this bolted cabinet? Bloated, I think what that is what he meant. And will he be able to match Uhuru development track record and to maintain superiority of Kenya shillings? Okay. Elmoge says Kenyans are going through a lot in these tough times of economical crisis. Mass demonstration is not the solution. Let Baba look for another way to address the issue of high cost of living. Kenyans shouldn't be hoodwinked. Okay? Sawe says it's important to distinguish between mentoring and imposing leadership. Some believe that Ruto pushed young and inexperienced leaders who prioritize self-enrichment over public service. It's worth reminding Kiborek of this difference. Magwe says President William Ruto has proved to be insensitive and unbothered to the suffering of Kenyans, which should be first priority. He instead goes ahead to appoint 50 CASs, which will overburden taxpayers. I support Raila Odinga's maandamano. Lillian says, looking at the CAS list of nominees, one can see that the president has yet again actualized the face of Kenya inclusion into service. Additional workforce in government will ensure there are no gaps or vacuums in terms of service delivery. Godi Baraza says, from a very honest vantage, increasing the number of CASs to about 50 defeats the logic of cutting down on government's recurrent expenditure. This administration should by all means strive to use funds prudently and avoid wastage. Sawe again says Kenya Kwanza made promise to hustlers and Mama Mboga, but they have failed to fulfill this promise. In fact, they are making it difficult for them to make ends meet. And the recent appointment of 50 CASs seems excessive and exacerbates the situation. All right, that's where we leave it for now. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for watching Daybreak. My name is Trevor Ombija. We'll see you again. Have a great weekend, by the way. Bye for now. And by the way, it's just politics, all right? So relax. Calm down. It's all going to be okay.